My father was the principal of a school in a small town, and my parents were Christians. My mom had been to Bible college. I was very fortunate. I was blessed in every way. We were given opportunity to take swimming lessons and to do piano lessons and things like that. So I was very fortunate. But of course, the most wonderful thing was that my parents took me to church. And to me, looking at the way our world is today, it was very important that my parents were a part of what I learned in going to church and being a part of the Sunday school, etc. My dad and my mom taught Sunday school at different times. My dad was a Gideon, and he preached in the jail quite often, etc. So I was fully immersed in things of the Lord, and my parents often had people home for dinner on a Sunday if they were visiting missionaries or something like that. So I had exposure to the idea of missions when I was very young. When I was 10 that I was baptized, and that was when I really made a stand for him. I knew what it meant then to be a Christian and to ask for forgiveness. My Sunday school teacher went to Africa, which certainly brought missions home to me in a very real way. So when I was baptized, I remember telling the pastor that I felt the Lord was calling me to be a missionary nurse.
How did it come about that you met your husband?
Oh, I had a holiday weekend away from nursing. I was a student nurse at the time, and I was going home, but my parents weren't at home, so I stayed with my Sunday school teacher. And at that time, there was a group of young people from Toronto who were up for the weekend, and that's when I met him. Then I didn't see him again for months because that was just a meeting. He actually was dating somebody else at the time, and so was I. So then I went to Toronto to have 3 months of affiliation at Sick Kids Hospital. And strangely enough, I don't know why, one of the young fellows from that group called on his behalf to see if I would go out with them. That's how it all started. We knew within 3 months that we wanted to get married, but both of us had to finish our education. He was going to teachers college, and I had to finish my nursing. When I graduated from Peterborough Civic, I went immediately to Toronto to work at Wellesley Hospital. So, and he lived in Toronto.
Then after that, did you head out into the mission field, or what happened then?
No. Here's the thing. What is a missionary, and where does a missionary work? That is a question that I think everyone should really consider, because we think that missionaries are people who go off to a foreign country. And I know that at People's Church, at the exit of their parking lot, they have a sign, "Now you are entering the mission field." And I think that's so impressive of the truth of where we're at today, because wherever we live is the mission field. When I went to Toronto, I became a VON nurse in a community called Forest Hill Village, and a lot of my patients were Jewish. And my mother had me read Agnes Scott Kent's books, David, Sonia, and etc. And they were very, very specific about some of the difficulties that Jewish people go through when they become Christians. So I felt in a way that I was prepared to at least understand the culture of the Jewish people. And I thought that was my mission field at that time. I did. I worked in that area for about 5 years, and then I had children. So when I had my kids, I was able to stay at home. Okay, so is my home a mission field? That's always a question,
Oh,
isn't
is
it?
it?
Yeah, and I'm very grateful that my kids both walk with the Lord today.
Did you ever go overseas as a missionary? Oh.
My back, I fell when I was 19 and injured my back. So after I had my kids and I was going back to nursing, my back gave out and I wasn't able to pursue nursing. It broke my heart because I loved what I did. But God had other plans, as only God can do. I was working with young people in our church. At that time, we had a bus ministry of about 300 kids coming into Sunday school. And because I was working with youth, I pursued youth ministry and counseling at Bible college. And because of that, I considered that was my mission field. And truly, I think all Sunday school teachers could consider themselves to be, in a sense, missionaries. They have a mission.
Yeah.
They're carrying the message, so this is important. So having said that, I was invited to become a chaplain at Pearson International Airport. And I really didn't want to do that because my passion was discipleship, and I felt very weak in the area of evangelism. But that was what God wanted me to do, and I ended up working at the airport for 8 years. I didn't know, it was learning on the job. I didn't really know what was expected of a chaplain, certainly not one at the airport. I might have known what a chaplain did in a hospital or even in a jail, but not at the airport.
What does a chaplain do at an airport?
I'll tell you, they work with both the flying public and the staff. And at that time, there were 35,000 people working at Pearson Airport. And many of them couldn't go to church if they wanted to because they were working shift. And many of them were of different cultures and religions. So I went back to Bible college and studied world religions from a Christian perspective so that I would have a better understanding of the people that I was working with. I can tell you one story. Arlene was a lady who came to my office and said that she was in desperate need of prayer because she had a brain tumor that was inoperable and they had only given her a few months to live. And she was Jewish, of course, you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't believe in God. She had never practiced her faith, but now she knew she was facing the end of life. So I was able to walk with her through her journey, and she came to know the Lord, and we were able to organize a communion service around her bed.
Oh, wow.
So that was rather an interesting thing. But that was something that happened over months of time.
Yeah.
You know, it's rare that you have somebody come to know the Lord the moment you present the gospel. So it takes a while.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, at my church, I was asked to disciple a gal from China. And when she came to my house, I asked her when she became a Christian, and she said, I'm not. I know what it means to be a Christian, but I don't believe in Jesus.
Okay.
And so after months of showing her scriptures and praying that the Holy Spirit would work in her heart, Jing became a Christian and was a vibrant witness when she went back to China and worked in the underground church.
Oh, wow.
And I've lost touch with her now.
Did you ever end up going overseas as a missionary?
The overseas part came much later. I think God has a sense of humor. It was 40 years after I had told the pastor I wanted to be a missionary. that I finally went overseas, and the first time was to Guyana in South America. I was asked to be a speaker at a conference because I was working at that time through my ministry at the airport, etc. I developed a counseling ministry, and so I was teaching counseling, etc. I'm trying to put this in to some kind of a time frame, but it's very hard because several things happened at once, and so I was working in different fields at different times. So I went to Guyana to teach pastors and lay leaders in particular. The first time I went, to teach them how to counsel people who were abused in their churches. And there are people who are hurting, people who are abused in all of our churches. And it's a thing that people don't know about. So it was a joy for me to be able to share. And I did that over a 3-year period. I went on a regular basis to teach them, and was able to do what was so exciting for me, to be able to teach a group at Georgetown Public Hospital, which included Muslims and Hindus, etc. So I was teaching them biblical counseling.
Yeah.
To me, that was a thrilling opportunity to present the gospel.
Yeah, so you had some good ministry experiences in Guyana. Did you go anywhere else?
Yes, eventually I became the coordinator of medical missions for the mission that I was working with because of my nursing background. And so we took teams to Zambia. In the beginning, we went to the Copperbelt region in Zambia. Now, I should mention, because people going into ministry are not perfect, that I had a fear of flying.
Okay.
And had to fly to get to Africa. And God undertook for me in amazing ways. So in large planes I was all right, but I was still leery of small ones. And when we got to Lusaka, we were met by a group of choir, actually, singing songs and dancing outside the airport in welcome. It was a wonderful welcome for us. But then we had to either drive a 10-hour drive to the north, or else we had to fly in a small plane. And again, that was something that God had to undertake for my fears.
Yeah.
In small planes. But when so there was a combination. All right, here's the thing. For me, it was a combination of things. We taught the nursing staff wherever we went. We shared with them things that they wouldn't have any opportunity to learn. So that was something that we did. We ran medical clinics in very rural areas where people had no opportunity to see doctors and nurses. And so we would have crowds of 300 to 500 people to see in a day. That was a lot.
Yeah.
We took all our supplies with us. I couldn't believe that there were mission groups going to different countries. I saw this particularly in Guyana, who thought that they could go to that country and buy whatever they needed. They had no idea of the lack of supply that was coming into the country.
Oh.
So it took a lot of preparation. First of all, I had to interview the team members to see who was appropriate for various missions, and then do some. I wanted to coordinate the events as we were going to do them, so we had to do a little bit of training before we even went. They needed to know something about the culture, about the climate, about the changes that they were going to be working in for a 2-week period. And again, I see people going out who've not been properly equipped. They just go, and that's not helpful.
No.
So when we got to wherever local areas we were going to, first of all, we had an evangelistic talk and a little devotional, etc., at the beginning of our clinics. And then we divided up into areas of expertise and had someone doing triage with the patients. And while they were going, while they were waiting, we did health care, teaching people how their bodies work. First of all, we would teach them how to do mechanical things, body mechanics, etc. We taught them how to prevent communicable diseases from spreading. There were many areas that we would, depending on the staff that we had with us, that we would do teaching while patients were waiting.
Oh, wow. So what are some memorable stories from your time in Africa?
I love that you are thinking in particular about Africa, because I think when my feet hit the ground in Africa, I finally had arrived at where my 10-year-old heart had hoped to go. And I think I was 50-something when I got there. So it's interesting that you're asking specifically about Africa. I think first of all, I have to tell you that I've learned a lot from the people. I went with the idea that I was going to teach them this and teach them that, and certainly I had the wonderful opportunity everywhere we went to be able to talk with pastors and lay leaders about counseling, biblical counseling. But memorable events. My heart broke when a couple came with their little child that had, I think the baby was 3 months old, with hydrocephalic problems. Do you know what that is?
No, I don't.
Maybe I need to explain. That's water on the brain so that the head is big, and the baby actually was blind, and so they came. Now we're in very rural Zambia. The only place that there might be any hope of treatment is in the capital, which is very south. So first of all, you've got transportation problems for these people, and you need money for that. How are they going to afford to get to Lusaka? And then we know that they would have to go back and forth. It's not a case of one trip. If a shunt could be put in, the shunt could block, all kinds of things could happen. And we saw that happen with a baby in Guyana. So it was heartbreaking for me that I had to tell the parents to take her home and just to love her until she died.
Oh, yes.
I can remember weeping in the arms of another staff member after I told them that. It was hard. And we know that here at home there was treatment possible, but not for them.
Yeah, that's very sad.
Then something else that I used to feel very angry when I came home to see the way that people took for granted what we have here. We saw people in the largest dumps in the world where there are, I can't remember the figures, 2,000 tons of waste that are piled many feet high, like 50 feet high, in these huge dumps. And there'd be storks and rats and people going through the dumps looking for something to eat. And if they couldn't find something to eat, maybe they could find something to sell so that they could buy food. We were doing ladies' conferences in various places, and this was aside from the medical clinics. It was something that I often stayed on after the team went home from the medical clinic. I would stay on to do things with other people, and we were teaching ladies about how to present Jesus to their children. You know, how to live a Christian life. I'll tell you, I think I could learn a lot from their prayer lives. But there were some women who were so hungry that their faces were blank. I can't describe to you the sorrow of seeing that I knew that they couldn't take in what I wanted to tell them. And don't forget, we're working with interpreters.
Yeah.
So that makes it that much more difficult when you're going to present something. So we arranged to get lunch for these ladies, this particular group. We arranged to get lunch for them for the whole week, but they didn't eat it. They took it home to their children because their children were starving. These are some of the realities, Kelvin, of working. The sorrow, the heartbreaking experiences that you feel. You know that you have all the knowledge in the world and it's not going to do any good when they are unable to take it in.
Like, there's a lot of people who think they want to help there, but what should they know if
there's so much need? I mean, I get requests for money from so many groups. It's really hard to be specific, but I think one thing is to be faithful to a specific group, first of all. I mean, you can't take on the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's better if you decide that you're going to support a certain group and really give it your all. In my view, that's better.
Yeah.
I sometimes wish that we had gone back more often to various places rather than we actually did visit a lot of places each year. We would do something different. And I think that we might have made more impact in Africa in particular. I think we might have made more impact if we had gone back more faithfully to the same place. So that's one thing that I would suggest if people are supporting. My grandson is involved in missions, and I think for him, I've said to him, you have to have your heart open to learn. So if you go on a mission, go knowing that you're going to learn from the people. If you don't, you haven't connected with them properly. And after all, your connection is the love of Christ, isn't it?
So how did you get into writing?
Oh, well, the first book that I wrote was like a manual, really. It was Feed My Sheep, and it was to help some of the women that I had been teaching, or to help anybody, I guess, to know how to work with people, how to share your testimony, how to understand what you're looking at when you see a need, and a spiritual need. Okay, so we all look at the physical needs, don't we?
Yeah.
We can see those. But what are the emotional needs of a person? And here at home we have the same thing. We look at people and we make assumptions because of the way that they live. And we do not know, we do not understand the emotional trauma that they may have been going through. And certainly we have no idea of the spiritual needs that exist.
So that was the Feed My Sheep.
Yes,
Yes.
that was Feed My Sheep.
Yep.
So because I was working in that field, I wrote that book, and it has been used actually recently. Somebody bought the book. You helped me with the devotional book.
Yeah.
Which is so huge that an old person can't hold it.
Yeah, we did a lot of work on that one. But that had devotions for the whole year in there, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah. And then after that, there was...
And then I did, I think you had helped me with the heart of the matter, what is truth.
Oh, yes, yep.
And that I wrote because I was teaching a ladies' Bible study in a church where they were really hungry for the Word of God. And I wrote that to just fix in their minds some of the things that we had studied together.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and you have Adventures with God, I think, you too.
Pardon?
You have a book called Adventures with God as well.
Oh, yes, I wrote that for my grandchildren. I didn't really publish that. I think you got it on a website or something.
Yeah.
I wrote that for my grandchildren, and it is basically my story. I found here where I'm living, it's interesting, somebody found out that I had written it, they wanted to read it, and then another person wanted to read it, and another person. So I could just only pray that the story would mean something, as they could see that God had led me all the way. We used to sing a song, someday life's journey will be o'er, and I will reach the distant shore. I'll sing while entering heaven's door. Jesus led me all the way.
So, do you have anything else that you would like people to know about?
Yes, I have to be honest. I need to share something that was very painful. I've had physical problems, obviously, but I was married for 37 years, and then I left my husband. And that's not a great testimony for a missionary, but there it is. I had biblical reasons, if you want to excuse me for that, but that I have learned since then, and that's 25 years ago, I have learned that it's a wonderful thing to forgive. And the forgiveness that we have received from God is something that we can pass on to other people. And I do have as good a relationship as one can have under these circumstances with my husband.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved